Daisy Meredith, daredevil, tomboy, possessed of a brilliant mind, exuberant, quick-witted, fond of practical jokes, honourable, honest, courageous, straight in all things, and an elementary school pupil. Father, dead. Mother, a former opera singer who struggles to keep a home together for herself, Daisy, and Daisy's brothers, Dick, Douglas, Daniel, and Duncan, in a small terraced house in London's East End, by giving music lessons to private pupils. Daisy has recently taken an exam, which will, if she succeeds in passing it, enable her to gain a place as the first ever scholarship pupil at Grangewood Girls' School, one of the most famous educational establishments in the country. If, however, she fails the exam, she must leave her elementary school and take up some form of ill-paid menial work to which she is little suited. Thank you. Oh, I do wish the postman would hurry up and bring the letter containing the exam results. Oh, but it isn't even 8 o'clock yet. I must win the scholarship. I so want to go to Grangewood. Oh, how topping it would be to learn Latin and Greek. Oh, to play hockey on their famous pitches. To make friends with all those jolly girls and have midnight feasts and get into fearful scrapes like they do in all the books. I should miss Mother. Oh, and Dick, Douglas, Daniel, and Duncan, of course, and all my friends at elementary school. But I must win the scholarship for the sake of others as well as for myself. For if I, the first scholarship pupil at Grangewood, make a success of the scheme, then Grangewood will open its doors to other elementary school pupils as poor as myself. Mother? Oh, Mother, I'm through. I've got the scholarship. I can go to Grangewood.
Lo, she is one of this confederacy. Now I perceive they have conjoined all three to fashion this false sport in spite of me. Injurious Hermia, most ungrateful maid! Have you conspired? Have you with these contrived to bait me with this foul derision? Is all the counsel that we two have shared, the sisters' vows, the hours when we have chid the hasty-footed time for parting us? Oh, is it all forgot? All school-days' friendship, childhood innocence. We, Hermia, like two artificial gods, both have with our needles created both one flower, both on one sampler, sitting on one cushion, both warbling of one song, both in one key, as if our hands, our sides, voices and minds had been incorporate. So we grew together like to a double cherry, seeming parted but yet an union in partition, two lovely berries moulded on one stem. So with two seeming bodies but one heart, two of the first, like coats in heraldry, due to but one and crowned with one crest. But will you rent our ancient love asunder, to join with men in scorning your poor friend? It is not friendly, 'tis not maidenly. Our sex, as well as I, may chide you for it, though I alone do feel the injury.
to bait fish withal. If it would feed nothing else, it will feed my revenge. He hath disgraced me, and hindered me 500,000, laughed at my losses, mocked my gains, scorned my nation, thwarted my bargains, cooled my friends, and heated mine enemies. And what's his reason? I am a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands? Organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? Fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, and healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer sun as a Christian is? If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. If a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be by Christian example? Why? Revenge. The villainy you teach me, I will execute. And it shall go hard, but I will better the instruction.
Seems to me that the knowledge of your son's impending death is causing you to act. Why is it that we are only willing to do that when a life is at stake? You see, the knowledge of death changes everything. If I were to tell you the exact date and time of your own death, it would shatter your world completely. I know. Can you imagine what it feels like to have someone sit you down and tell you that you're dying? The gravity of that, That the clock is ticking for you. In a split second, your world is cracked open. You look at things differently. You smell things differently. You savour everything, be it a glass of water or a walk in the park. But most people have the luxury of not knowing when that clock's going to go off. And the irony of it is that it keeps them from really living their life. It keeps them from drinking that glass of water, but never really tasting it. I'm not fixable. I've got cancer. But cancer isn't what started me in my work. It was the moment that I decided to end my life that started in my work and brought meaning to it. I'd literally driven myself to suicide and I'd failed. My body had not been strong enough to repel cancer cells, yet I had lived through a plunge off a cliff. But to my amazement, I was alive. And I was determined to spend the rest of my days testing the fabric of human nature. Those that don't appreciate life do not deserve life.
There's a knocking indeed. If a man were to port a hell gate, he should avoid turning the key. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there in the name of Beelzebub? Oh. Here's a farmer who hanged himself on the expectation of plenty. Come in time, have plenty of napkins about you, for here you'll have to sweat for it. knock, knock. Who's there in the other devil's name? Faith, here's an equivocator who could lie in both scales, one scale against the other, who committed treason enough, for God's sake. But he could not equivocate into heaven. Oh, come in, equivocator. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? Faith, here's an English tailor, caught stealing from a French hose. Oh, come in, tailor. Here you can roast your goose. Knock, knock, never quiet. What are you? It's too cold to be in hell. I'll devil porter it no further. I had thought to let in most of all professions that go the primrose way into the everlasting bonfire. Anon, anon. I pray you, remember the porter.
Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle before my hand. Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not fatal vision sensible to feeling as to sight? Or to art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation, proceeding from the heat oppressed brain? I see thee yet in form as palpable as which now I draw. Thou marshals me the where was going, and such an instrument I was to use. My eyes amid the fools over senses, else were for rest. I see thee still, and on thy blade and dungeons cuts of blood, which was not so before. There's no such thing. Oh, it's bloody business which informs thus to my eyes. Now, the other half-world. Nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse. The curtain sleeps, witchcraft celebrates, pale Hecate's offerings, and withered murder. Alarmed by his sentinel, the wolf, who howls his watch, thus with his stealthy pace, with Tarquin's ravishing strides towards his design, moves like a ghost. How sure those that earth hear not my steps, for which way they walk for fear. Thy very stones take crate of my whereabouts, and take the present horror from the time which now suits with it. Whilst I fret, he lives. Words to the heat of deeds, too cold breath gives. I go, and it is done. The bow in fights me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a now that summons thee to heaven or to hell.
How dare you? I shall crush you. I shall pound you. I shall dissect you, madam. I shall strap you down to a table and perform experiments on you. I shall feed you to the termites, and then I shall squash those termites into tiny fragments. And then I shall crush those tiny fragments into dust. And then I shall take the dust and feed it to the bloodworms. And then I shall feed the bloodworms to the birds. And then the birds I shall release into the air and shoot them down with my 12-balled shotgun. And so on, and so on. Ad infinitum, madam. Ad infinitum. Are you listening? All of these disgusting little slugs shall suffer the most appalling dignities because of you. Yes, you. I shall rip the rebellion out of this class and devour it whole. I shall hang each and every one of you upside down by your ankles until all your bodily fluids drain out through your noses into jars. Yes, jars, which will be sent home to your parents with your school reports, on which I shall write, could do better. Miss Honey has allowed her weakness and filth to permeate through this miserable collection of excuses for children. And you, madam, standing there before me like the squid of squids, are its beating heart. But I am a match for you, madam. In me you have met the avenger, the spirit of all that is right. And I tell you, there is nothing I shall not do, no length to which I shall not go, no punishment I shall not inflict, no ear I shall not stretch, no finger I shall not snap back to defeat you. Yes, I defeat you in exaltation. Do you hear? Are you listening? Are you listening, madam?
The 6 o'clock news and Michael Wishman. The headlines. The Hancock report sparks clashes in Parliament today as a second unrest in Suriname, as rioters take to the street of Parmelabo. Demonstrators converge on Washington demanding milk. That can't be right. The auto cue stopped. Apparently there's a technical fault and I'm supposed to deliver the news bulletin without reading it. Right. The Hancock report was raised at Prime Minister's question time today. The leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, asked something designed to make the Prime Minister look silly. Boris Johnson ignored the question, spouted irrelevant statistics, waffled on for several minutes, nobody's none the wiser. Because of the risk of the spread of disturbances, the Foreign Office has advised all British citizens to avoid Suriname and the neighbouring states. That would be... Is it in Africa? No, one of those islands in Indonesia. No, that's Sumatra! Anyway, avoid foreign places. Look, you'd be far better staying at home. You got the right clothes for this climate, and nobody in their right mind likes flying. And you know, the foreign food, well, it never agrees with you. In sport news, there was something about football. Oh, Amandra's resigned, but all you lads know about that already, not seeing the rest of us, well, we're just not interested. In a moment, we're ready to go to our Washington correspondent Daniel Birkin. And later, we're back for breaking news or a fracas in the newsroom where the studio manager's an auto cue smashed over his head. Daniel.
Reed Slaver interrupts this program for an important announcement. Don't bother watching the rest. Elastigirl doesn't save the day. She only postpones her defeat. But while she postpones her defeat, you eat chicken and watch her invent problems that you are too lazy to deal with. Superheroes are part of a brainless desire to replace the desire with stimulation. You don't talk, you watch talk shows. You don't play games, you watch game shows. Travel, relationships, risk. Every meaningful experience must be packaged and delivered to you to watch at a distance so you can remain ever sheltered, ever passive, ever ravenous consumers who can't free themselves to rise from their couches to break a sweat. Never anticipate new life. You want superheroes to protect you and make yourselves ever more powerless in the process. Well, you tell yourselves you're being looked after, that you've inches from being served, and your rights are being upheld, so that the system can keep stealing from you, smiling at you all the while. Go ahead, send your supers to stop me. Grab your snacks, watch your screens, and see what happens. You are no longer in control. I am.
This royal throne of kings, this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty, this seat of Mars, this other Eden, demi-paradise, this fortress built by nature for herself against infection and the hand of war, this happy breed of men, this little world, this precious stone set in the silver sea, which serves it in the office of a wall or as a moat defensive to a house against the envy of less happier lands. This blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England, this nurse, this teeming womb of royal kings, feared by their breed and famous by their birth, renowned for their deeds as far from home, for Christian service and true chivalry, as is the sepulchre in stubborn Jewry. Of the world's ransom, blessed Mary's son, this land of such dear souls, this dear, dear land, dear for her reputation through the world, is now leased out. Die pronouncing it. like a tenement or pelting farm. England, bound in with the triumphant sea, whose rocky shore beats back the envious siege of watery Neptune, is now bound in with shame, with inky blots and rotten parchment bonds. That England, that was wont to conquer others, hath made a shameful conquest of itself. Ah, would the scandal vanish with my life? How happy then were my ensuing death.